Who remembers when America was strong, was ambitious, and talked about grown-up things? I wasn't alive, but looks like it was a glorious time.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space, and none will be so difficult or expensive to accomplish.
And we did it! A little over 8 years later, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the moon. And we haven't been back in 50 years. We might maybe sort of go back as long as we get a woman of color up there. That is literally the priority of NASA. We used to talk about big, important things. Now what do we talk about? Now what do we focus on? The hideous and, yeah, the obscene.
For our LGBTQ plus Americans, let's finally get the Bipartisan Equality Act to my desk. The onslaught of state laws targeting transgender Americans and their families, it's simply wrong. And I said last year, especially to our younger transgender Americans, I'll always have your back as your president so you can be yourself and reach your God-given potential.
The president has the back of transgender teens. That from "we will walk on the moon before the decade is out." And the obscenity I was referring to is Joe Biden's obscenely dishonest approach to all this, wildly mischaracterizing the law in Florida and beyond. You know, this has gone too far, and not just for conservatives like me, but even for the transgender community. Yeah, some of them are saying, let's put the brakes on this. This obsession is getting out of hand. Fascinating piece in the Los Angeles Times profiling Erica Anderson. She is a transgender psychologist. She's helped hundreds of teens transition, but rising numbers have her concerned. It's gone too far. Check this out. She says that she has come to believe that some children identifying as trans are falling under the influence of their peers and social media. Clinicians are failing to subject minors to rigorous mental health evaluations before recommending hormones or surgeries. I think it's gone too far, said Anderson. A fair number of kids are getting into it because it's trendy. I think in our haste to be supportive, we're missing that element. This is fascinating. What happens when the perfect storm of social isolation, exponentially increased consumption of social media, the popularity of alternative identities affects the actual development of kids? Sometimes she wonders whether she should quit working with trans youth. I have these private thoughts. This has gone too far. It's going to get worse. I don't want any part of it. Well, good for her. A lot of folks out there, non-experts like me, we knew it intuitively. Those parents know it. Those who are standing up, they know this. The mothers know this. The fathers know this. It's gone too far. Back to the experts, though. There's another one, a Johns Hopkins physician who's been watching this stuff for decades. Transgender surgery is not the solution, he said. And I think the comparison he made is fascinating. The transgendered suffer a disorder of assumption, like those who suffer from anorexia and bulimia nervosa. With anorexia and bulimia, the assumption that departs from physical reality is the belief by the dangerously thin that they are overweight. And what do you do for an overweight person? They become persuaded that seeking a drastic physical change will banish their psychosocial problems. Treatments must begin with removing the young person from the suggestive environment and offer a counter message in family therapy. He's saying that if somebody comes in who's anorexic and says they want to be thinner, with today's transgender philosophy, they'd say, okay, how thin do you want to be? You're 80 pounds. How heavy do you want to be? 68 pounds? Let's make that happen for you. No more solids. Let's put you on an IV. That kind of insanity. You have the patient, young patients, children diagnosing themselves and doctors coming in and performing radical, irreversible surgery. So we get it. A certain number of physicians get it. The teachers, Way too many of them don't, especially the radical woke ones.
Kids as young as 3 and 4 are actually aware of their gender identity, even if they don't have the language for it. Say that pre-K through 3rd grade are not ready for such topics is actually internalized homophobia and transphobia.
This is a tool I use to teach students about gender and sexuality.
This has been my first year in preschool with a class of my own, teaching alongside another queer neurodivergent educator, and we have been rocking our Choose class. We've been talking about gender and skin color and consent and empathy and our bodies and autonomy. It's been fabulous.
Man, y'all thought me teaching the children about me being poly was crazy. But not only that, but they also know that I'm gender fluid.
They should be kept away from children. It has to do with the words they're saying, not with whatever is going on with their gender, actually. It's with what they're saying. That's the issue. The one before this one, she says she's talking about consent. She's talking about sex. I mean, preschool, you should be talking about shapes, color. Barney, is Barney still a thing? Stuff like that. But this kind of hideous rhetoric has gone mainstream. And now we go to the floor of the United States Senate. And here is wannabe woke guy Chris Murphy, Democrat of Connecticut.
My message to the adults with power who have decided to spend their days bullying these kids: stop it. Grow up. So you're not ready to accept transgender people. Fine. I hope you come around someday. But these kids threaten no one. They are hurting no one.
And no one is picking on the kids. We want to protect the kids, whatever their orientation, whatever their gender. We want to keep the adults like these people, away from the kids if they're going to talk about the issues they so desperately and passionately want to talk about. Okay, Senator Murphy?
I could walk into a room of 1,000 people in my state, ask how many of them have had a child lose a sporting event to a transgender girl, and not a single hand would raise.
All right, now that's a big fat lie right there. Chris Murphy, in his home state of Connecticut, could never get a crowd of 1,000 people, all right? I've seen this guy. It doesn't work that way. They don't come out to see Senator Chris Murphy, okay? No. But back to the sports issue.
Saving girls' sports is not the reason why Donald Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene and their whole political movement has made bullying transgender kids their top priority. No, it's their top priority because they know hate and fear of what some people don't understand has a habit of selling in this country. I wish that weren't true, but it's always been true.
Is that right, Abe Lincoln? Give me a break. You know, this isn't theoretical. All right? This is not some obscure thing. This sports issue is real. It's affecting real athletes, real parents, and we're confronting it. All right? We're not picking on kids. These are adults, by the way. Leah Thomas and the spectacle she made out of herself and how she almost ruined the sport. We are sticking up for her teammates. We have more respect for the teammates than Leah Thomas. They want nothing to do with her. All right? They know that this is a perversion and she belongs in her own transgender league. Go for it. Make a transgender league. As those UPenn students passionately wrote in a letter to, I believe, the NCAA, they said to be sidelined or beaten by someone competing with the strength, height, and lung capacity advantages that can only come with male puberty has been exceedingly difficult. Yeah, we care about these girls. We hope that sport will adapt and swimming will find a place for Leah to compete. Leah is always welcome to train with us. The men's and women's swimming teams have always trained together with the same head coach. Yeah, you see, this is not bullying. However, sport is competitive by definition, and Leah's wins, records, and honors should not come at our expense. The women who have worked their entire lives to earn a spot on the Penn women's swimming team. And I like this. We support Leah's mental health, and we ask Penn and the Ivy League, and maybe you too, Senator Murphy, to support theirs as well. Huh? What do you think? This is not hypothetical. This is real world stuff. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, Donald Trump, me, we're not picking on kids, all right? We're protecting them. I'm trying to. A little bit on Joe Biden now. Had a bad week. He is as lost as ever before. Did you see this? Oops. No idea where to go. Strange guy. It's kind of sad to watch. And after he turned like that and tried to shake hands with thin air, I am reminded that this individual had brain surgery twice back in the 1980s. And back then, when they did it, it was not what it's like now. It's a bit more intense. Today, they can go through the nose and actually perform brain surgery that way. No, they had to crack the skull open, and neurosurgeons back in that time had a saying, when the air hits your brain, you're never the same. And Joe was, well, as President Trump said, he really wasn't all that hot in his prime. Then this happened. And then, do you remember moments like this?
Do you feel you're able to control, to put in the vernacular, your mouth, that you can think before you talk?
Well, I've been in this business for 15 years. I let my record of 15 years versus the transgression that you're referring to stand, and you all can make that judgment. I feel very capable of using my mouth in sync with my mind.
It's something really scary about that. I'm sorry. We all see now that he can't do it. He can't keep it together. I don't know how this is going to end. Although I really wish Joe Biden well. I wish his family well. I want the very best for them. You know, it's Easter weekend. It's Good Friday. And a little bit about my own faith journey. In 2012, someone gave me a Bible, the Charles Stanley Life Principles Bible. And you know what happened when they gave it to me? I said, when did you become such a church lady? I don't need that. I got this. I read this in college. Thank you very much. But I never really thought about it deeply. And it sat on the shelf for years, and a couple of years went by. And during a time of personal crisis, I started to really read. And things started happening. And then the crisis faded, but I kept reading. And I became closer to God. He became closer to me. And that is the way. And I urge you, if you haven't tried this, to try it. Nothing more important. And I can honestly say, I love Joe Biden. I don't like him, but I love him. And God has this all worked out. By the way, another thing I like about the Charles Stanley Bible is it has little notes and footnotes and essays and things like that that decode some of the language, which, let's face it, can be tough, but it's glorious, and I highly recommend it.